Hey, what's up, nerds? It's Paul at Radio Free Hammer Hall. Today I want to take a look at Scourge of Ghyran battle tactics for Slaves to Darkness. I had done this with um, Maggotkin of Nurgle already, and I think Slaves to Darkness is going to be much, much better than Nurgle at doing battle tactics. So let's just jump right into it. All right, so master the paths. Up first, you have to cut off the head, which is killing an enemy hero. Seize the paths, more friendly units in neutral territory than enemy, or if there's no neutral territory, no enemy units in your territory. And then envelop and strangle 3 units within 9 inches of table corners. Only one of them can be in your territory. I think this is going to be difficult for most armies to do. It's hard. It's going to be really hard to target heroes, especially if your opponent is, playing well, playing around what you're doing. Um, there, it's going to require some building into this if you really want to do it. I apparently have some notes about Nurgle still in this because I use the same template. My bad. Um, the second step, seize the paths, is not terribly hard, but envelop and strangle, I think, is uh, possibly going to be a little bit of a challenge. Um, Getting everything into the corners, keeping enough stuff alive that's cheap and mobile. Um, like having Furies, Fell Riders, Chariots, things like that in your list might be good options to try and get that done. But you also need to keep those things alive till the end of the game, right? Because like turn 3 is the best you're going to be able to be pulling that off. Playing against this, you want to bury your heroes that are weaker to try and get that um, first step uh, delayed as much as possible, and then really move everything up into the middle as much as possible to prevent that second step from happening. I don't expect to really see this battle tactic much in general because it's just hard to do. Um, Particularly with the shooting situation currently in this. With all of the obscuring terrain, it's going to be hard to shoot stuff. All right, Restless Energy. Water and Blood, control an objective controlled by your opponent at the start of the turn. That's not too bad. Invasive Species, control every objective in enemy territory, or if there are none, every objective controlled by the enemy at the start of the turn. And then all roots entwined control all objectives. This one is going to vary a lot depending on what battle plan you're playing. If there are not many objectives, this is going to be a whole lot easier. Um, the first 2 steps are just kind of playing the game. Um, and then step 3 is basically win more. Um, most of the battle plans only have like 1 to 2 objectives in enemy territory, so getting over there is not going to be that bad. It's going to be really hard to stop your opponent from busting through like the first step. It's basically just playing the game, right? Um, I would say don't control objectives that you don't need to control to stop them from getting that kind of as a freebie. Like, don't have like thin holds on objectives, which I think that's not a bad idea in this GHB to begin with. So, uh, push up with anvils, I think, is also going to be a strong tactic. And then easily pretty much stopping the third one without, yeah, basically just want to be not doing terrible. All right, intercept and recover. Your opponent picks 3 of their units to have Ghyranite treasure, and you have to try and kill those units. And then if you double, they can remove one of the Ghyranite treasure from units so that you can not score as many tactics. This is a really good one for Slaves to Darkness, I think, just because we're heavy on hammers. We can just go point and click and kill things a lot of the time. So I think you can really easily grab 2 on this, if not all 3, pretty regularly. Just, again, by pretty much just playing the game the way you want to. And if your opponent is not playing into things, like if they're not countering what you're trying to do, they could get themselves in trouble pretty easily. Playing against this, there's a couple of different ways to go about this. You could go with putting the markers on really strong defensive units, so a group of 20 warriors or 10 knights, give them Mark of Nurgle and just hold on and hope that they can't whittle through 40 health with a 3-up save and a 6-up ward. Placing on units that you can easily hide and protect. So I would also add to that things that are fast that can just kind of get out of the way. Like, I think chariots are probably a good pick for this. They're 70 points now, which is just silly. So those are going to make my lists an awful lot. All right. Wrathful Cycles. First, Defiant Surge. You control more objectives than your opponent. Not terribly hard to do. Daring Resurgence. Be the underdog, and at least half of your units fight this turn. That's a challenge because you kind of have to play to be losing to then win, which is, I think this is going to be a challenge one. I don't think I'm going to see this very often because of that, like, push and pull that you have to do, like kind of let your opponent win for a little while. Then Master of Strategy, different units in each large table quarter, and control more objectives than your opponent, and no enemies contesting objectives you control. Forget it. I feel like this is just really challenging for everyone. I don't think we're going to see this very much. Sit on your objectives with defensive units to play against it, and just be aggressive if you're playing with it, but I don't think this is really a great one. All right, Scouting Force. You pick 3. I'm sorry. You have all of your basically like infantry, cavalry are all scouting units, and you basically do things with your scouting units to score these battle tactics. So 3 or more friendly scouts outside of friendly territory. Bold Explorers, you control 3 objectives or terrain features in enemy territory. And then Courageous Adventurers control all terrain features in enemy territory. I'm sorry, control a terrain feature in enemy territory that is more than 6 inches from friendly territory. All right. So this is one that I think you can build into pretty easily. I think you don't even really need to build into it that hard because you have a lot of cavalry in this army that is very good. And it's really, again, it's a heavy hammer army. So if you're running like a couple of chariots and some knights, you're going to be able to score this pretty easily, I think. Maybe a challenge if you're not like intentionally building into this, but I think the value of chaff and things like that, or multi-purpose kind of units, is going to be really there in this edition, or not edition, but this General's Handbook. So playing against this, I think you need to watch your flanks and stop those quick units from getting into your backfield, and just try and zone enemies out of your territory as much as possible. I think you actually want to take top of one against this and try and alpha block your opponent. All right, and then finally, Attuned to Ghyran, Sacred Centrality, 2 units within 3 inches of the center of the battlefield that are not in combat. Phase Strike, retreat 2 units and charge 2 units. And Purification Rites, no enemy units in friendly or neutral territory. This one I actually feel pretty good about in general. I think it's pretty easy to grab the middle in turn one. You have a lot of quick units, so even if you're going second, I think you can kind of push up aggressively and grab that fairly easily. Retreating 2, charging 2, not hard. You're going to get into combat a lot with this army. You want to be in combat, and you've got a lot of units that are going to have a lot of health to be able to take that damage from retreating. And then keeping your territory free of enemies can be hard, but again, if you're playing a game that is, or playing a list that's very heavy on hammers, very killy, it's not going to be as bad. And depending on what the battle plan is, some battle plans are going to be a lot easier to do than others. Playing against this, again, clog up the middle with your anvils and counter charges with your beefy units so that your opponent is going to have a little bit harder of a time with things. Denying the last step with spare like scout and cavalry units, I think is going to be pretty easy to do. You're probably going to have some quick stuff hanging around. And all right, so that's all of them. So let's look at our best options. I think Intercept and Recover is going to be really easy to do. Attuned to Ghyran also, that's what I've been using so far is Intercept and Recover and Attuned to Ghyran, and I've been scoring a lot of battle tactics with that. Scouting Force, I think, is one that I want to try with Slaves to Darkness, and I don't think you really need to particularly build very hard into it or devote a lot of resources to make it work. And then Restless Energy, I think, is also one that is possible. There's a couple that are just, I think this is basically like the 4 that everybody is going to be regularly taking are all very doable. And in general, I think your lists are going to want to have some pretty decent anvils and some cheaper units that are quick to hunt and harass and get in your opponent's way. And, you know, just mobile units that are going to be able to do some utility kind of stuff. All right, and then so finally, I think we're going to be good on tactics this season. I think this is going to be a very solid army this season in general. I really like it. I was planning on playing this army this season anyway, and I'm feeling good about that choice. A lot of the tactics are playing into what you're already good at, so you don't really need to overthink building into your battle tactics. It's just going to be you can almost build your list and then pick which battle tactics you think are going to be the easiest ones for that list to grab, with only minor tweaks to customize for your battle tactics. And we have good options available to try and deal with countering enemy battle tactics. So that's about it for this, guys. I'm feeling really good about Slaves to Darkness, and I like them a lot for this season. I think battle tactics are going to be very doable for us if, as long as we're choosing the right ones, and I think we have options, which is great. So that is going to be it, and I'll talk to y'all later.